Good morning, everyone. Janie here. Welcome back to my garden. It is time for the July garden tour, and I am so excited to show you all my garden this month because I think my garden is in its prime this month. I think in another month or two, you're going to start seeing, or I'm going to start seeing my plants suffering because of the heat. You know, the days and days and days all end of high 90s and 100 degrees heat. But right now, the plants are loving it. They are growing so fast, they are blooming, the trees are blossoming, and everything looks absolutely gorgeous. So I'm very excited to show you all. So on my channel, Dig Plant Water Repeat, I do a front yard and a backyard garden tour every month. And the reason why I do this is to show you all what my garden looks like, but also to show myself. I've said this in a couple garden videos so far, how beneficial just taking a quick video of your garden every month so you can see the progress as time goes on, as the year and the season goes on. It is so motivating and it is so good to see just what 1 month of changes can make. So I highly recommend to all of you watching this, get your phones out and go film just a quick video of your garden every month just so you can look back and you can see the differences. It really is incredible. So I have to remind you all, this is a garden tour of what my garden actually looks like. I made the decision when I first started doing this that I wasn't going to spend a lot of time primping and prepping my garden for these garden tours because that's not really what it looks like. You know, it's like, I love beautiful garden tours where you can go around and you can see everything looking in their prime and looking absolutely gorgeous, but that's not real life. That's not actually what the gardens look like at all times. So I do have to warn you all, I always say this just because, you know, I get a little embarrassed, right? It's like if you had your bed unmade or something like that. This is what my garden actually looks like. I spend very little time, you know, prepping it before these garden tours. One, because I don't have time for that. And two, because I think you all want to see and I want to see what the garden actually looks like. And even having said that, I feel like the garden looks really good this month. So yeah, so I'm very excited about that. So the other day I did a little post on YouTube asking you all if you like just quick overviews of my garden, of the, you know, where my garden is at the month, or if you liked more in-depth where I talk about each plant and how each plant is performing and, you know, the different things like that. And it was kind of overwhelming, and I really appreciate you all voting, but it was overwhelming, more in-depth and a little bit longer tour. So this tour is going to be a little bit longer. I'm going to go into depth on all the plants and all the things that I'm dealing with in my garden. So sit back, get your iced tea, get your coffee, relax, and let's get into it. Okay, so I will turn around and we will start right here with my beautiful Crepe Myrtle. Oh my goodness, I love this tree. So let me back up a little bit so you guys can see it a little bit better. I am in the street, so if I have to run out of the street, it's because a car is coming. Oh, look at that gorgeous, gorgeous tree. So we moved into this house in January of 2020, and this tree, so Crepe Myrtle trees are deciduous. So they lose all their leaves, they lose all their blooms. It was basically just a tree trunk, and we had no idea what we had in store for us with this tree. So obviously the tree came with the house. It's been there for years and years and years. It's this beautiful multi-trunk. I do not know the variety, but I do think it is pink velour of everything that I've been looking at. And actually when I'm at the garden center and I look at the Crepe Myrtle trees, it looks the most similar. It is a gorgeous tree. I love it. I can't say enough. I've been showing it off in every single video that I've been filming in my front yard just because I love it so much. So it usually blooms late June through July through August, and then it starts dropping all its blossoms. I don't know if they're bracts or blossoms. I don't know what you say. So you know, it is a messy tree. I do have to say that. You guys can kind of see down here. I cleaned it up just a little bit. I cleaned, you know, my sidewalks up right before I started filming this. But you'll see by the end of this video, I will have more of the blossoms down on the sidewalk. And that is just something that you have to deal with if you have a beautiful tree like this. I don't care. I am so happy with it. I think it makes such a statement in the front of my house, and I absolutely love it. And you can imagine the surprise the first year, 2020, when we were living here. We had no idea. Let me get out of the way. I am smack in the middle of the street. Okay, a car was just coming. You can imagine what the shock we had in late June, July of 2020 when all of a sudden this tree came out with this. I was just getting into gardening then. I didn't really know what to expect, and then all of a sudden it was this gorgeousness of pink, and I just loved it so much, and I was so happy, and I just I can't say enough how much I love this tree. So anyways, this is you know, it is just the showstopper of my house right now, and it will be the showstopper probably for next month as well, and then it'll start losing all its blossoms, and then eventually it'll start losing all its leaves. You know, and it is what it is. You can't have everything beautiful all the time. But right now I am going to enjoy it. I see a swallowtail butterfly. Ooh, I want to try and get a video of it. Oh, it's on my dahlia. Oh! Come on, find something else. Okay, this is a second swallowtail butterfly. I think it's a swallowtail. The other one just flew away, the one that was on the plumbago, but now this one is on my sparkling amethyst Superbena from Proven Winners. I love this plant. This is Jason's favorite plant that I have, favorite flower that I have in my garden, and obviously the butterflies like it as well. Okay, this is not a butterfly tour. Back to the garden tour. Okay, so this is my Crepe Myrtle garden bed. I obviously call it that because it's the garden bed that my Crepe Myrtle tree is in. I love this garden bed. It's beautiful. It is kind of a mess, but that's okay. I kind of like it that way. I do have a lot of plans for this garden bed where I'm going to kind of move things around a little bit, but right now I'm really enjoying how it is. Now, this is a trailing lantana, trailing purple lantana, and lantana does so well for us in the heat. It is a perennial. It just keeps coming back, and I chop this thing way down, and then it comes back, and I chop it down, and it comes back. Now, I think I am going to take it out of this spot because you can see in the middle of summer where I want the blooms, there's too much shade, and lantana likes lots and lots and lots of hot sun. So obviously it grows perfectly well. It blooms really well earlier in the year and later in the year when there's not as much shade cover. But right now, I just don't think it's the best spot for this plant. This is a really hard garden bed. I did a microclimates video this month on different garden beds, and this one, my Crepe Myrtle garden bed, is on kind of a hill. So you can see it's early morning right now. Gosh, I think it's like 9 o'clock right now. But you can see the garden bed is like half and half. And this half, it gets this gorgeous, beautiful morning, gentle sun, and the plants love it. And so certain plants I can plant there that like this morning sun. This half, it gets the hot, blaring afternoon sun, and I have to be really careful what I plant over in this half because the plants have to be able to handle this hot afternoon sun. Verbena obviously can handle that. It can handle it no problem. However, I do think I'm going to take it out because there's just not enough blooms on it, and I think I can do better. And that's just something with gardening, is that you can keep changing things around, and you can keep trying to figure out what's the best plant where. And we all have microclimates in our garden, and this microclimate obviously, you know, it's kind of a difficult one. It's a difficult one to figure out just because of the hot afternoon sun, but I think I can find something. I just got to keep looking. The other reason why I want this verbena out is that I have this gorgeous landscape rock back there. You cannot even see it because it's covered with the lantana. And I kind of want to emphasize that. I think I want to put more of a ground cover right below it and maybe something up here that will kind of spill over, just because I think that that will, I mean, that is a gorgeous landscape rock. We didn't put that in. That was put in when we moved in the fall before. In order to sell the house, they did a bunch, they did all this hardscaping, and we got to reap the benefits of it. So they put that in about a year before we moved into this house, and I love it and I want to enjoy it a little bit more. So I think I can do a little bit better. So right over here, this is Mystic Spires Blue. This is one of my, it's my favorite plant in the garden. It is a Salvia, Mystic Spires Blue Salvia. It's just kind of the generic kind. It's not, you know, anything special. You can get it at most garden centers for pretty cheap. I love this plant. First of all, the pollinators love it. Can you guys see that big bumblebee on it? I love this plant. I just think it's so fantastic. It is always in some form of bloom, right? Sometimes I will come through and I will deadhead the stalks if they get really done, like this one, right? But they keep poking out little blooms and then new ones come up. It's just such a workhorse in my garden, and you can see in this difficult garden bed with the hot afternoon sun and the shade the rest of the day, it still does fantastic. So this plant, I pretty much, if there's any place that's a hard place for me to plant a plant, I will throw in a Mystic Spires Blue because I think that it will thrive there. It's just one of the most fantastic plants. Here in Northern California, Zone 9B, it is a perennial. At the end of the year, I cut it down to about 6 inches. One of the garden center, I got it at this small garden center in Dixon, which is, you know, the next town over. It's a very, very small town, but they grow all their own plants, and so it's a really hardy, robust specimen that I got. And they always say cut it down to the leaf canopy, but my leaf canopies get so high that I just cut it down to 6 inches, and the next season it just comes right back up. I love this plant. Okay, so right behind here, this whole little grouping, I think it was in my May garden tour. I'll show you guys a clip if I can find one. These are my Camelot Mix Fox Gloves, and they're technically blooming right now. So they're on their second or third bloom at this point. I grew these from seed, and they look absolutely beautiful when they're in full swing, which is usually in May. But now they're kind of starting to peter out a little bit. They don't look as nice. The leaves kind of get a little yellowed and everything like that. And what I'm thinking is, I don't know if I should pull them and start completely fresh each year, or if I should leave them in, because they are biennials, so that they'll last for 2 years. I don't think these will reseed in my garden. I have too much mulch here for things to really reseed, and we're too dry during the winters for things to reseed. So usually I always have to I usually have to transplant all of my plants. You know, I really don't direct sow almost anything, honestly. So I don't think I'm going to rely on these foxgloves to reseed itself this year. The Camelot Mix is a special kind of foxglove. Usually a foxglove takes 2 years to bloom. So you plant it, the first year it's just leaves, kind of like this, just the leaves, and it's starting, you know, it's building up its root system, and then the second year it'll bloom. I don't have enough patience for that, and I always get the varieties that bloom the first year, and Camelot Mix Foxgloves are those. They will bloom the first year that you plant them. So I actually put all these baby plants in this, actually I did fall sowing on these, so I put them in last fall. Oh, I can't remember. I'm questioning myself if I put them in. I did put them in last fall. So, yeah, so I guess my, not a conundrum, but one of the things I'm thinking is, do I just pull these and restart in the fall, or do I let them go and let them winter over and see if they will bloom this next year. I think I might do half and half, because what if they bloom even bigger and even more amazing next spring, and I don't want to miss out on that. So I love Camelot Mix Fox Glove. I grow it from seed. You can grow so many because there's so many seeds in a pack. And if you let these dry like this, you can harvest the seeds. See, watch, if I shake it, oh, do you see that? The seeds are just spreading everywhere. So again, you know, if you have better conditions than I do, they will reseed themselves very easily. I just don't trust myself. I don't trust myself at all. Back here I have a bunch of Columbine Weeds, which I kind of like to leave because I think that they're really pretty. They do take over, so I will go through and I will clean them up a little bit, but I do think they're really pretty. Okay, so next thing I wanted to show you all is I wanted to show you all my Calla lilies. And they're looking okay. You can see I have some faded blooms right there. They're just so gorgeous. They're such a gorgeous plant. I actually there's two plants right here. I divided them. I transplanted them from my oak tree garden bed, which is just around the corner right there. And I just wasn't, it was before I had redone that. It was actually 2 years ago when I transplanted them. And I just wanted them in a more prominent place in my garden. So I moved them here, and this is just a fabulous place for them. They absolutely love it. However, my plan for this area was to have these Bobo hydrangeas right here. I have 5 Bobo hydrangeas kind of surrounding the Crepe Myrtle tree right there, the trunk of it. And I really like that look of, you know, the Bobos kind of popping up underneath the tree. And these are kind of interfering with that just a little bit. So my plan, as it cools down into the fall, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig these 2 plants up, I'm going to divide them, and I'm going to put them in my backyard in my shade garden bed. I think that they will really like it there. I think that there'll be enough shade, but then still enough sun for them to bloom pretty well, and I'm going to try it. It's actually really hard for me to find these plants in my area. My garden center will have them like 1 week in the spring, and if you don't grab them when they're there, I don't know if they just don't have a lot or if they sell out, but I have a really hard time just finding common calla lily, just the plain white calla lily. I have such a hard time with that. So over here, everybody knows I love gardening, and I get plants as gifts all the time, right? People are so sweet and they know that I love it. So I got this one. You guys see that? I got this one from my friend Amy, and what I did is I took it and I immediately planted it, and then I immediately forgot about it after it, you know, died back and everything like that. And then I have another one right back there. I forget what color that one is, but they are the colored calla lilies, and they are just popping up. You can see here's another one right there. Yeah, it's just so funny. So another surprise plant that I totally forgot about, I do that quite often, is I'll just throw something in, not even think about it, and then all of a sudden it pops up and it starts blooming, and it's gorgeous. You can see right here, I think this is a 2-year-old foxtail, and it's pretty big, and it's kind of old, and it's looking a little raggy. So I think I'm going to take those out and just kind of clean up the garden bed just a little bit. So this ground cover right here, this is Lamium, and it's gorgeous. I absolutely love it. I got the idea from Laura at Garden Answer. She has this garden bed where she has a lot of hostas and Lamium in it, and I absolutely think it's beautiful. So I did the same thing. I put a couple hostas in, and then I put Lamium. The hostas are not happy. Even with this morning sun, I think it's too much sun for the hostas. I think my sun is just too strong to have this much sun for the hostas. So that didn't work, but the Lamium did work, and it's absolutely beautiful. And then what I do is during the winter, I have these Cyclamen, and they're absolutely beautiful. Like the whole thing's kind of pink, but these Cyclamen are crazy. They're supposed to bloom in the fall and the winter, and, you know, like late winter, early spring. However, mine will just send up shoots of these gorgeous pink blooms every once in a while during the summer. So I get to enjoy the Cyclamen blooms throughout the summer. I have no idea why it does this. I have no idea how it does this. It just keeps doing it. So I will take advantage of it. It's like totally incorrect, wrong timing. I'm sure I'm like tricking it or something like it, but I really do love it. And they are perennials here. So actually what I do is I wait for them to go. They're pretty expensive plants. Like you can get like a 4-inch and it'll be like $6 just for like a generic one. And so I wait for them to go out of bloom, and then wait for them to go on the clearance rack, and then I grab them and then I plant them because I know that they'll keep coming back. And it's a really good way to get cheap, beautiful plants that are going to last a really long time in your garden. Here's another foxglove I want to show. So this is another part of the Camelot mix. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, and then coming up this way, I have some new look Dusty Miller that I grew from seed. I actually got the seed from Floret. However, I don't think Floret sells this seed anymore, but you can get it from like Johnny's. And this has been in here for 2 years, I think, and I still cut on it all the time. You can see I just went and harvested a whole bunch in there. I still cut on it all the time for cut flower arrangements, and what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to dry it and save it for winter decorations. So I'm already thinking about winter decorations at this point. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to take little bits kind of as time goes on. All right, just saying hi to my FedEx guy. Okay, so over here I just have some white geraniums that I have to come through and deadhead, of course. Very pretty. They do okay in the shady area. Like they can handle the hot afternoon sun, but I park my car right here because of course we're just like everybody else and our garage is a total mess and full with tons of stuff. So I always park my car here. And so there's really no hot afternoon sun on these guys. So these guys are actually in shade for most of the day, and then my car blocks it from the time that it would get sun. So I don't think that I want to adjust the planting based on me parking my car there. However, I think that is where I'm going to park my car for long term. So it's just something that I have to think about. Okay, right here, right next to the white geraniums are more sparkling amethyst Superbena. And this is this plant, it's so beautiful. It is so gorgeous. I always say it's Jason's favorite, and I think it's one of my favorites too. I just think it's so pretty. But again, this is in a little bit more shade. So you can see it doesn't bloom as well. It still blooms. It still handles part sun, part shade perfectly well, but it probably would bloom a little bit better, kind of like my Superbena whiteout right over there, if it had a little bit more sun, but I just can't provide it that. So you can see it's kind of spreading out kind of over here. This was, I want to say 5 plants. I don't remember because I did transplant them. So I want to say it's 5 plants, and then it just kind of spread out everywhere. And I think it's absolutely beautiful. And I really like it when it kind of goes into my, my walkway like that. I think it's really pretty. Right over here are some plants that I grew, some flowers that I grew for my cut flower garden. And funny enough, I haven't used it at all because I just think they're so pretty and I want to leave them here. These are called Blue Planet Floss Flower or Ageratum. I got the seeds again from Johnny Seeds. Most of my seeds are from Johnny Seeds, and I think they're beautiful. And what I read is that they're really good dried flowers. So right after this garden tour, my plan is I'm going to come through and I'm going to cut all of them, and I'm going to hang them upside down in my garage, in my dark garage, and I'm going to see how they do as dried flowers, because wouldn't that be so beautiful? So I've been waiting for this garden tour so I could give you guys one last look of my Blue Planet Floss Flower, because I think they're so gorgeous in this spot right here. I might even repeat this because I just think they're so pretty, and they do really well here. You can see it's part shade, part sun, and they are handling it perfectly well. So this is a cut flower. Usually most cut flowers want hot full sun, but this cut flower I think is one of the few that can handle not full sun, and it still blooms really well, and it's still gorgeous. Okay, so back to the Crepe Myrtle garden bed. I have these Foxtail Ferns here that are absolutely beautiful. I love the texture that they give in this garden bed. The texture and the color, really, this chartreusey green, hopefully you guys can see it with the shadows, but I just think it's so beautiful. The only issue is when the Crepe Myrtle starts losing its blooms, they get stuck. So it's like polka dotted with these pink blooms. It's okay. It's pretty. It's gorgeous. These guys stay evergreen, so it's, you know, some winter interest, and they're just beautiful. And these guys started off pretty small, like not big at all. So I am so happy I have them. I think that they're beautiful, and they really, really like this spot. Right down here, I have my border of lemon coral sedum. Just like a week ago, I went through and I pruned my Breath of Heaven right here. I pruned that Breath of Heaven, but it just kind of cleaned out this whole area. You can see how big it was because I didn't feel like I had to plant any of the lemon coral sedum. This is just a baby one. But now I need to come through and I need to finish the border. I need to connect it down there. So that's something that I need to do in the next month or so. Here I have Japanese forest grass, Takanakloa, and I want more of this. I think it's so beautiful. I can't put this in my backyard because my dog loves this grass. It's not toxic or anything for them to eat, but he just, I don't know what it is. He loves eating this grass. So I have to stick with it in my front yard. It is not a cheap grass. It's pretty expensive. For one kind of small can, it's like $13 at my garden center. So it is not cheap, and that kind of holds me back in planting more of it. But I think that one time I'm just going to splurge and I'm going to buy, I don't know, 10 of them or something like that and put it all through here, because wouldn't that be pretty? So here I have my White Wands Veronica. They're looking really pretty. They're looking a little long in the tooth, but they still have blooms on the top. There's 3 plants here, and they're really, really happy in this area. There's bees on them all the time, and they're absolutely gorgeous. Right here I have the Ever After. This is the new Veronica Magic Show Ever After from Proven Winners. I just planted this. This is not available until next year. I have been having so many ant issues, so I did put these ant bait stakes out all over, so we'll see how that does. I haven't had to dig around since putting those in, so I'm not sure how they did, but this guy is pretty happy in this spot, so I'm excited for it to, there's 2 more blooms coming on there, so I'm excited to see how that grows. So one of the things that I really want to work on in my garden is I want to work on the vistas. I want to sit in one spot and really enjoy the layers and the different textures looking in just one shot of the camera. Sometimes I get overwhelmed when I kind of look at the whole thing as a whole picture, and I think if you step back and you stand in one spot and you look at it and you think, okay, what can I do for this vista? I think that that makes it a little bit easier. It's not a way that I'm used to looking at my garden. But what really got me started thinking that way is obviously this shot right here. I love this shot. I think it's beautiful. If I get a little bit of the Crepe Myrtle tree, it's even more beautiful. It has my ivy espalier in the background, and then my path. I just love this spot right here. So I want to work on other spots in my garden. I'll pick a spot, I'll stand there, and then I'll start working on, you know, all the different layers in that one particular spot. So going over here, I just showed you guys this with the Swallowtail Butterfly. This is more of that sparkling Amethyst Superbena. You can see the blooms are a little bit more concentrated in this plant because it has more sun. This is another one of those Breath of Heavens that I just sheared back, and I'm so happy I did that one, and there's a third one over there. I just think they look so good like this. I think it just brings some needed structure to my garden. I don't have a ton of structure in my garden. It's kind of very free flowing. I call it the secret garden look, but I think that if I added a little bit more structure, I think it'd be really pretty. So I'm happy that I sheared that back, but you can see it was kind of pushing everything forward, you know, as it was kind of laying forward. So you can see how much I actually cut back, you know, a really big amount from that Breath of Heaven. So I think that these will start growing in over here. This month, I added some more Shasta Daisies into my Shasta Daisy collection. They are starting another flush. These are just the regular Shasta Daisies right here. And then if you look at right here, these are the Daisy May Shasta Daisies. Look at all these buds. Bud. What I thought was I love these Shasta Daisies so much, and I think they're beautiful, but they are not in bloom all the time. I got these from Lowe's on a perennial sale, 3 for $10. So I spent 20 bucks and I got 6 of them, and I planted some over there on that side and some over here on this side. And I think I will always leave Shasta Daisies in this spot because I think it is so pretty. But like I said, they are not always in bloom. So my thought was, I had these Daisy May Shasta Daisies planted in another spot, and I noticed the bloom time was a little bit different than my generic. Well, I think that they're snowcap Shasta Daisies because they're pretty short. The bloom time's different. So I thought if I planted 2 different varieties right next to each other, maybe the bloom times will be a little bit different, and I will have a longer amount of time during the year where I have blooming Shasta Daisies. So I have 3 of the proven winners, Daisy May Shasta Daisies, and 3 of the snowcap variety, what I think is the snowcap variety. I don't know because when I bought them at Lowe's, they didn't have a tag. I'm just guessing that they're snowcap variety. So it's a mixture of the 2 different varieties with the goal of trying to get a longer bloom time of Shasta Daisies in this spot. Okay, I don't know which way to go. I'm gonna go this way. So you can see here, I have more of the Camelot Mix Foxtails. You can see I just love these plants. These are again on like their 3rd bloom. I come back and I deadhead them, and then they just kind of bloom a little bit shorter. They're still really pretty. Again, it's just a matter of I just cannot decide what I'm gonna do, whether I'm gonna pull them out or whether I'm gonna leave them in. I think I'll leave them in. I don't know. I obviously haven't decided yet. Right behind there is another Mystic Spire Salvia, absolutely gorgeous. There are 3 plants right there, and I absolutely love it. Here is another Dusty Miller, and this is just the generic, not the new look Dusty Miller. This is just the regular one. I got this as a cutting from my neighbor, and I love it. I think it's a really pretty pop of silver right next to my Chinese fringe flower, another plant that I pruned in that video. I was very nervous about pruning these plants, but I'm so glad I did because I think it makes such a difference. So pruning is tough. Pruning is tough for me because I don't want it to look like, you know, when gardeners go to, like a shop at Target parking lot or something, and they just go and they chop everything back. I don't like that look. I like it more when things are a little bit more natural. So when I prune things, I want to make sure that I'm not, like chopping everything back and ruining the shape of these gorgeous plants. And you can see this Chinese fringe flower, it has a gorgeous shape where it's natural and it kind of just, curls out. I just love that. And so when you prune things, I just feel like you have to be very strategic, especially on a plant like this. So I think it worked out really well. I just followed one branch back and did one branch at a time, and I think it turned out really well. I'm really, really happy with it. But anyways, this plant blooms this bright, beautiful pink in late winter, early spring. So it's this wonderful welcome pop of color. So I love these plants. Then during the summer, the leaves fade from this green to this like dark kind of red burgundy color. I think it's so beautiful, and I love it right against this silvery blue of the Dusty Miller. I think it's so, so pretty. Right underneath that, I have this plant that is not in bloom. This is called a Bright Lights African Daisy, or Osteospermum. This one is from Proven Winners. And these plants are gorgeous. They bring a lot of color again in the late winter, early spring for us. However, we are just too hot and they will not bloom throughout the season. So Proven Winners is coming out, either they came out this year or they're coming out next year with some gorgeous, gorgeous varieties of Osteospermum. And I love them, but I just can't rely, you guys can see, I cannot rely on them for color throughout the season because we just get too hot here. So what I would love is I would love a variety that would bloom all season long. I think that Proven Winners says that this variety is supposed to bloom a little bit better in the heat, but you can see it's just not holding up to our intense heat. We get like triple digits all the time. It's very, very common to be in the triple digits, and it just doesn't bloom in those conditions. And that's okay. It's still pretty green. I'm still gonna leave it because I really enjoy the early season color that it gives. Now, this plant, this is Superbena Whiteout from Proven Winners. This plant is ridiculous. It just keeps growing and growing. Now, this is not one plant. This is probably 5, I would say, 5 or 7. Again, another one that I transplanted and just put here. So I buy these plants as annuals, and then because I'm in zone 9B, they last for me. So I just transplant them after I'm done with them for the season, and they just thrive. They just are so beautiful. So I do fertilize this plant once a week. I do cut it back all the time. It's just so gorgeous. I love the white on white with the Limelight Hydrangeas behind it. I do have some afternoon white cosmos that are kind of coming to the end of their life, but it's like white and white. It's just really, really pretty. It's like my own little mini moon garden right there. So really, really gorgeous. I highly recommend the Superbena Whiteout. I just think it's beautiful. All right, and then earlier in the season, Jason and I installed this stepping stone pathway all the way up to my dahlias. I'll show you guys that in a sec, but I do want to come over here. This is another plant that I had as an annual that I transplanted. They're not doing great. Again, it's just too hot. These are just generic purple alyssum. It's just too hot for them. I'm gonna leave them there and see how they do once it cools down over the winter, because I think that they will bloom really, really beautiful over the winter. But it's just such a bummer because it'd be such a nice underplanting for the Limelight Hydrangea. It's just too hot for them. This variety will not bloom in our heat, just like the osteospermum over there. So it's just interesting to see. You guys will see, I'll show you in a bit, in my front annual swoop, there are varieties of sweet alyssum that will bloom in the heat, and they will thrive in the heat. This is just not one of them. So, I don't know. Not every plant is created equal, I'll say. Right here is a rockin' fuchsia salvia. I always say this, I always brag about this. I got this plant off the clearance rack in Lowe's for $1. So this is one plant. I just planted it there. I never take care of it. I never bother with it, and it's just gorgeous. It's just so beautiful. You can see this one's kind of out of bloom. I got to come here and I got to deadhead it a little bit. But even the calyxes are like this burgundy color, so it still looks really, really pretty. I was at Lowe's the other day and I saw these plants there, and I had to hold myself back from getting a bunch of them because I know how well they do. They just do so well. Salvia does so well in our heat, and I love it. This is a gold dust plant. It has quadrupled in size since I got it. I think I put this in the first year I was here, right after, I don't know. I put this in right after I put in this star jasmine right here. And it's just loving its life. It's, I'm not particularly partial to this plant. I don't love it. It's really pretty. I like the speckled leaves. I think that it's really interesting. But again, just like the rocking fuchsia salvia right there, it's just so happy. So I can't bring myself to change it or do anything else. And I think it looks fine. So speaking of my star jasmine, I just love this plant. I got this plant for Mother's Day. I have to say, getting plants, like when my friends buy me plants or my family buys me plants, I just think it's just the best gift you can give somebody because it lasts and you can just enjoy it year after year after year. So I got this beautiful, beautiful staked star jasmine for Mother's Day one year. I started training it up along my eaves both ways. I have it going this way, and I have it going over this way. And I put this one in right here, training up this, what do you call it? Post right there. So again, more of that secret garden look. I've kind of twisted around here. It's not in bloom right now, but I still think it's so beautiful. I do want to show you all how I put it up. Well, I don't know if you'll be able to see. So let me come over here. I have hooks that were there already that people put in. You see right there? There's one. And then there's one. The people who lived here before put them in to hang Christmas lights. So we just leave them to hang Christmas lights. But then what I did is I connected wire to each of them. And that is what the star jasmine is hanging on. The star jasmine is hanging on the wire. They're actually not hanging on the eaves or hooked in the eaves. And what I do is I go through and I make sure that the star jasmine is not growing into the gutters. You can see, oh, hold on. Horrible filming here. Sorry, guys. You can see that the star jasmine will start trying to grow into the gutters. It will start trying to grow into the eaves, into the house. And so it is something that you have to stay on top of. And that's a lot of my gardening choices are choices that I've made to keep maintaining. And if we ever do sell this house, which I'm not planning on selling this house, I will probably have to go through and I will probably have to rip all these plants out if the people we sell it to don't want to maintain this, because if you don't maintain it, it will take over your house. If you do maintain it, it is absolutely gorgeous. So I am willing to put the work in and maintain it because I just love this look, and I cannot wait for it to start growing this way over the garage. Like, I just think it'll be so pretty. I did plant this star jasmine right here that is not happy at all. It's like basically dying. So I'm not sure if it seems like it's not getting enough water. It's probably not getting enough sun, but I'm gonna have to figure something out because I do want it to grow up here. I think maybe I'll start with a bigger plant and keep the theme of the star jasmine growing up here and growing up this way. And then right below there, I just want to point out, this is called a southern sword fern. I did plant these over in my oak tree garden bed because they're actually a fern that doesn't need as much water as a regular fern does. It actually likes the dry, shady conditions. You can see how much this plant loves this area. So yeah, it's just a really, really great hot weather ferny look, and it's an evergreen. So it's another one, just like the foxtail fern, that gives winter interest. Okay, so walking up my stepping stone pathway, I want to show you guys my Dahlia Border. It's looking really good. They're not all in bloom yet, but there's a lot that are in bloom right now. This one right here is my no-name variety. I call it the no-name variety because last year I got it from Home Depot in a little pack, and I didn't label it because I thought I would remember the name, and of course I didn't label it. And then what I did, these were in my cut flower garden, and I just transplanted them over here. I let them winter over, and now they're huge. I have this one right here, and this one right here is the same variety. They're absolutely gorgeous, and it's given me the confidence to feel like I can leave my tubers in the ground over winter. I was a little nervous about it. I was even talking to a dahlia grower from San Jose, which is the same zone as us, and they were saying that they pull all their tubers every winter. They don't leave them in because they don't trust the rain and all this kind of stuff. So I was following their instructions. However, I'm not a dahlia grower. I'm just a home gardener, and I think it will be easier for me just to leave the tubers in over the winter season and not have to plant them in again the next spring. So my plan is just to leave all these dahlias in. They're all along this black fence, and see how they grow next year. Over here, this was the first one to bloom for me. This is the Wizard of Oz Pom-Pom. Just so cute. I love this one. A couple of them are struggling. I have White Perfection that never even came up. Calvin Floodlight struggling, Creme de Cassis is struggling, Arabian Night is super happy, super happy, and then Cafe au Lait never came up. I think that I just have to keep waiting. They will probably start growing probably as the summer goes on, because they're kind of late summer flowers. There is a dahlia farm close by. It's about an hour and a half away in Petaluma, and I am planning to go, I think, early next month. I'm going to go with my aunt. It's a CSA, and she always signs up for the CSA. So we're going to go and we're going to visit that dahlia farm. And they told me that they're not even opening till the end of July. So I just have to be patient with my dahlias. They're going to take some time, but I'm pretty happy with how they look even now. I do want to show you guys my Limelight Hydrangeas. Limelights are beautiful. They're absolutely gorgeous in the garden, but they're just a plant that you have to keep taking care of. You can see as I'm walking through here, I can see I have chlorosis, and I can see it's also scorching a little bit. So I think it needs a little bit more water. It's just something that you just have to keep maintaining. Here in our hot area, hydrangeas they're tough. They're really, really tough. And you can limp them along, right? But you can see they do start getting, they start complaining, basically. I have my other Limelight Hydrangeas in my backyard. They're in a little bit more shade and they're doing perfectly fine. But you can see they're still really happy here. Okay, so turning around, you can see I have my Texas privet. This is what I got for Mother's Day this year. Gotta trim it a little bit. I just trimmed it, and look at this piece that I just totally missed. So I gotta come through and I gotta do that, but I like this one because I feel like it gives me some good structure. But I wanted to show you all this one right here. This is the, gosh, I always say it wrong, Candy Crush Hibiscus. I just put this one in, I feel like a month ago, and it was little. It was tiny. I transplanted it from my backyard. It is obviously thriving, and there are buds everywhere. So man, I feel like in about a week, it's going to start blooming with those huge, giant dinner plate sized blooms. And I cannot wait to show you all that. So I moved this from my backyard, kind of my shady garden area. It was technically part sun. I just don't think it was enough sun for it to start growing. So I moved it to this area where there's a little bit more sun, and I think it is way, way happier. Okay. Look, you can see here already the signs of the heat. You know, we're starting to see it in July. By August and September, most of the plants in the garden are showing signs of heat stress. So it's coming, but we're gonna enjoy the beauty while we have it. All right, so coming along this way, along my stepping stone pathway, you can see I have cut back a lot of my gladiolas. These are the gladiolas, the pink gladiolas that I got from the Dollar Tree. I love them, they're beautiful, but they take over. They are taking over everywhere, so I cut a bunch of them back, and I'm actually gonna pull the bulbs that are in between these stepping stones because I could not get through here. I could not get through this pathway, and it was like no point that I did that. I did just cut back my Spanish lavender, and I also deadheaded, this is that Daisy May Shasta Daisy that I was telling you all about that I planted, and that's how I noticed the different bloom time between the snowcap variety. You can see my, what is this one called? A Luna Claire Obscure. Yeah, it fell over. So I think I even lashed this one. Maybe I missed this one. So I got to do that. So yeah, so the dahlias with our wind, they definitely do fall over, but that's okay. It's all part of it. So another thing that I did this month is I wanted some more color in this area. I have beautiful color in my annual border right here, but as you're sitting here looking, there's not a lot of color in this back garden bed, right? There's a lot of shrubs. It's beautiful. There's a lot of texture, but not a lot of color. So what I did is I came through and I planted 1, 2, 3 more of the Superbena Vista Jazzberry. And I just planted these like a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago, I want to say. So they're still babies, and I think that they still have plenty of time to grow and give me some really good color. So by the end of the summer, it's going to be just as bright back here as it is up here. Here is another shot, a little bit more stood back. I'm back in the street. My neighbors think I'm crazy, I'm sure. But you can see how gorgeous it is, how beautiful the Crepe Myrtle bed is with my annual border right here. I just love this. I think it's so beautiful. This is not how I imagined this was going to look this year. I imagined that the Superbena Vista Jazzberry was going to take over, and then the Snow Princess Sweet Alyssum and the Sweetheart Lime, Sweet Caroline, Sweet Potato Vine were just going to be little accents. And boy, was I wrong. First of all, the Sweet Potato Vine, I have already cut this guy back, or I should say girl, Sweet Caroline. I've already cut it back. So this one is known for not being as vigorous as other sweet potato vines that are out there. You know, it's kind of bred to be less vigorous, and that kind of scares me because it is still crazy and it is still taking over. Sweet potato vines just do so well for us if you give them the water they need, and they are right next to my lawn. So obviously all the irrigation on my lawn goes right there, and they're just loving their life right now, loving it. So totally taking over. So this whole area is kind of turning into stripes, which is kind of funny, right? We've got the green, pink stripe, white stripe, pink stripe, green stripe, you know, and that is not what I imagined this was going to look like, but I still think it's really pretty. I think it's really beautiful. You know, my neighbors really like it. Everybody compliments me on it. So it's pretty. It's pretty beautiful, I do have to say. So you can see back here, 1, 2, 3 are where I put the 3 new jazzberries. I actually bought those jazzberries, Supertunias, from Romance Garden online, and it was really good. I bought enough so that I got free shipping, and it was pretty good shipping. So that is a really good source of proven winners if you guys are thinking about that. But yeah, so my annual border is gorgeous. I do spray BT to make sure that I don't have any budworm damage, and then I also fertilize once a week, every other week if I'm kind of lazy and it's absolutely too hot, which does happen sometime. All right, and then turning this way, you guys can see I've got my monster. So this is a Vertigo pennisetum grass, and it actually is from last year. In our zone, it is another one of those. It's meant to be an annual, but is actually a perennial, and you can see how massively giant. That is about 6 feet tall, maybe 6.5 feet tall now. It's really, really cool. And if I had more room in my garden, I would absolutely leave it in because I think it is a super neat plant. I'm trying to convince my parents to plant more of these in their yard because they have kind of like a craftsman style house, and I just think that it goes so well with their house, and I think it'll be so pretty. So I'm convincing them to put this. They also have tons and tons and tons of space, so they can handle having some of these in. But I do think that I'm going to take mine out. I am going to leave it in for Halloween because I'm going to decorate this as a monster. This neighborhood down that direction does a Halloween house decorating contest, and they invited me to be part of it this year, so I'm very excited about that. So I'm gonna leave this in so I can decorate it as a monster for the Halloween decorating contest. So right below that I do have this Homestead Verbena. That's this purple plant right here. This one, it's just not getting enough sun. I think that that's the problem. I did plant one of the Supertunia jazzberries right there. We'll see how it does with not getting enough sun, but I think it just doesn't get enough late afternoon sun. And the Homestead Verbena, which is a fantastic plant. If you guys haven't heard of Homestead Verbena, it is, so how they found it is it was growing wild in this woman's yard. I think, you know, somewhere, I want to say like around Virginia or something like that, in that area of the country. And the person driving by basically stopped their car and went in to ask the woman what type of verbena that was. And she didn't know. And it was just this, you know, this weird mutation of verbena. And so it's this gorgeous, like fuchsia purple, bright purple color that's absolutely beautiful, and I've got to get more in my garden because usually it's like covered with purple, but just this year with my monster blocking it from some sun, it's not performing as well this year, but it is a really, really cool verbena plant, and I highly recommend it. Okay, so over here I have my Helen von Stein lamb's ear. I have some there, I have some over there, I have some over there. I obviously love this plant. It's another one of my absolute faves in the garden. I just think it does so well. It is supposed to be an evergreen. However, I don't think it's very pretty during the winter because it kind of gets like almost melts a little bit and it kind of gets a little rotted, and you have to come through and you have to clean it up, and it doesn't look very pretty. But during the summer, it's just absolutely gorgeous, and it's one of those plants that can handle the heat, handle our heat, and it just looks better and better with the heat. So this time of year I start really relying on this guy, and it's totally worth it. I should say this girl because it's Helen von Stein. That's the name of it. Okay, I have to change my pronouns. All right, so here's more Shasta Daisies. This is the snow-capped one. You can see I'm starting to get another flush. I have a couple buds, not a lot. The first flush is always the most, but right there and right there and right over here is where I have the Daisy May Shasta Daisies. So this is another version or another spot where I kind of mixed the two varieties together with the hopes of having more bloom time for the Shasta Daisies. Okay, this thing, this is our dumpster. We are having a bathroom remodel going on right now. We had some plumbing issues. Long story short, we decided to get the whole bathroom redone, and so we have a dumpster. They came and they emptied it out yesterday. There was like stuff everywhere. So I'm glad that it looks a little bit cleaner right now, but that is why we have a dumpster in our front yard. It's better because we did have a bathroom sink and a mirror over there sitting right next to my flowers. So it looks a lot better today. So the other thing I wanted to show you is I wanted to show you guys my road narrow signs. I live on a corner lot, so obviously I have to deal with a road sign. And what I decided to do this year is I planted one seed of this purple hyacinth bean, and I planted it down here, and look at what it's grown into. I think it's gorgeous. Now, if this was a stop sign, I obviously would not do this for a stop sign because not safe, and you can see it's kind of taking over the whole thing, but look at how beautiful that is. I mean, I just think it is so pretty. I keep looking at it, and I'm so happy with the sign now, where it used to be this eyesore in my garden, but now I really, really like it. So I am going to keep it clean. I will get a ladder out and I will keep the sign cleaned off so everybody can see the sign, even though it's just a road narrow sign. Like, it's not that big of a deal, right? But I just love it. I just think it's so pretty. And again, this was one seed from the purple hyacinth bean. So if you live in the South, I have heard from quite a lot of people that this plant takes over, like badly takes over, and gets invasive and starts climbing on everything. I don't have that issue here, right? It grows, and it grows intensely, but when I pull it out, all I have to do is go to the bottom, yank it out, the whole thing dies, and I can pull the whole thing off. So I love this plant. I just absolutely love this plant, and I think it's so worth it, and it's so cheap. I'm talking one seed is all you need for something like this. I just love it. Okay, here's the back of the sign. You can kind of see what it looks like there. So what I did is I took a landscape stake and I put a piece of twine in there, and then I brought the twine all the way up to the top of the sign, looped it around, and then brought it down. So there is something that the purple hyacinth bean can grow on. You can't even see the twine. Here's a little piece of it right there. So there's something that it can grow on, but it's not much. It does most of the work itself. So I absolutely love this. I hope I don't get in trouble for doing it. And if I do, I will just take it out. It won't be a big deal at all, but I just think it is so, so pretty. And talk about like vistas. Do you know what I mean? How pretty. Okay, so just to the left of that, I do have my Kinsman lattice arch right here. I got this from Kinsman Garden Supply, and I absolutely love it. And I am growing Eden climbing roses on it. And these Eden climbers are from heirloomroses.com, and I love, love, love heirloomroses.com. I think they do such a good job growing and informing their customers. I don't work with them at all, but I really want to work with them. Hint, hint. So I just think they do such a good job, and I'm so happy with these roses. They're growing so well. I normally fertilize them with, you're not supposed to fertilize them with a granular fertilizer their first year. I just planted these last November. So I fertilize them with a liquid seaweed fertilizer from Neptune's Harvest. I'll put a picture of it on the screen right now. However, this month and for the rest of the summer, I am not going to fertilize them. And the reason for that is it's just too hot for these poor plants. And I don't want too much new growth with the heat. They always recommend in our area, the rose growers in our area, they always say stop fertilizing in the hot part of the summer, which is what we're in now, because you don't want them to grow and suffer with the heat. So I will probably resume fertilizing I don't know, maybe October or November. I always fertilize the first of the month, so maybe I'll do November 1st as the first time I'll start fertilizing again. But they are so, so happy. I mean, you can see this cane right here, it's even curved and it's up to my eye height. So like 5.5 feet, I would say, of growth, or more, probably 6 feet of growth already. And it's just the first year. It's not even a year-old plant. So really, really beautiful. Right next to that, I have the matching tutor that you cannot even see because the plumbago is totally covering it, but it is a tutor, an iron tutor from Kinsman Garden Supply. I actually got this one off Amazon. This one I got directly from the website because I couldn't get it from Amazon. But I have to say, I'm really happy that I did it. I put this plumbago in this tutor right here. So I had plumbago last year. The landscapers, when we moved, right before we moved in, they put plumbago all throughout here, and it was just this mass of green and sometimes blue, but mostly green. And it was just too much. I'll show you guys a picture right here. It was just too much. It was just too much is what I'll say. So I took most of them out. I transplanted them over to my oak tree garden bed. I'll show you that in a little bit, but I did keep this one here and I put this tutor on it in an effort to kind of contain the plumbago a little bit. And I'm so glad I did that because as you can see, it still looks crazy. It still looks like it's going every which way, but it's not sprawled all along the ground like they normally are. So I think it's really, really beautiful. I think I'm going to keep doing this. Yes, you can't see that tutor, you can't see the beauty of it, but that's okay. It's pretty, and when I cut the plumbago back in the winter, I will still have some more winter interest. Look at this vista, huh? Isn't that pretty? Here's my dumpster right next to it, but look at this vista. All right, so right below that, I do have some heliotrope that I got from Annie's Annuals. I have to say, I don't like this variety. I really like the other variety. I'll show you guys when I move up there. It's just a different variety. The flowers are a little bit lighter. They don't smell. I don't know that much about heliotrope. It's a new plant to me this year that I'm absolutely obsessed with, by the way. But I have to say, I really like this other variety with the dark purple and the dark green leaves. And this is just not the same. So I haven't decided if I'm going to totally take it out, but I kind of think I'm totally going to take it out. All right, and then down here I have some leftover Superbenias from last year that honestly are not happy. I do not know what's going on with this spot. Must be an irrigation issue or something like that, but you can see even the Superbenia bubblegum is kind of fried. It's totally not happy. So not sure what's going on. I'll have to come out here and check it. I've kind of been ignoring it because it's so hot. It's even hot right now. But it looks pretty a little bit right here. So this whole bed right here is my cottage garden bed. And I have to be honest, I'm having a little bit of trouble with it. I know the vision that I'm looking for this cottage garden bed. I know what I want it to look like, like this, and then color, beautiful Veronicas, and all this kind of stuff. I know what I want it to look like. It's just hard to get with our heat and then also the lighting with this area. This is east facing, so it gets the morning sun. It's about, I think it's like 11 o'clock right now. So you can see it's still in sun, but then it doesn't get any afternoon sun. So it's just kind of a tough garden bed. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm going to figure it out. It just takes a little bit of time. I have I actually have two beautiful birch trees. There's one on the other side of the fence right there that I totally love. I think it's gorgeous. I'm not worried about this one. I'm a little worried about the one over on the other side of the fence. It's just not looking good. And I have spoken to a tree guy in this area, and he said that birch trees just don't last very long in our area because we're so dry here. So I'm wondering if we're gonna have to take it out. I don't know. I'll show you guys a closer look in a little bit, but yeah, we'll see. But this one is looking really pretty, so I'm happy with that. Right underneath it, I have some delphiniums that are kind of done because it's too hot, so I've cut them back. I do have a false spirea right here that's really pretty. It bloomed, I think earlier this month or last month. And I have to come through and I have to deadhead it. And I think I'm just gonna kind of shape up this whole thing a little bit. But I think it's really, really happy here. A lot of people say that this plant is invasive. I don't think it's gonna get that invasive for me. Again, because we're so dry. There's just not enough moisture for these plants to kind of take over. So earlier this month, I went to my mother's house, my parents' house up in Redding, and I did a lot of garden bed makeovers for them. And we went to their local nursery a lot when we were there, which is called Wintour Gardens. And I absolutely love that place. It's kind of a good thing it's 2 hours away because I think I would be there all the time. So what I did get when I was there, I got these pink Veronica. They're called pink damask Veronica. And Veronica, I have a little bit of trouble with it just because it's so hot here. You can see that one. I think it needs some water. But this variety, the workers at the nursery said that this variety does really, really well in the heat. And you can see it is happy, and I'm so excited about that. I'm so excited for Veronica to be really, really happy. So I think I might need to get more of these. Next time I visit my mom, I think I'll get more if they have them. I have this Limelight Hydrangea that I was going to plant in my mom's garden, but I made the mistake. I had it here, sitting here in my yard in its can, and we had a 106-degree day, and I didn't protect it and put it in the shade. So a lot of the leaves scorched, and so I felt really bad. So I ended up just keeping this one, and we got another one from my mom. I planted it here, and it is super, super happy. Like, you can just tell that this plant is happy here. So I'm excited about that because I think this Limelight Hydrangea is going to be a perfect addition to that cottage garden look that I'm going for. Right to the left of that, I have all of this Nepeta right here, and this Nepeta is called Junior Walker. And this one is kind of the same as this Veronica over here in that I usually am hesitant to plant Nepeta in my garden because, again, we're too hot. A lot of Nepeta only likes up to zone 8 and it cannot handle our hot, hot sun. However, this variety, Junior Walker, is supposed to be able to handle it pretty well. I think it's an offshoot of the Walker's Low variety that does really, really well in our area. But I'm not a huge fan of the Walker's Low. I don't know why. I just don't think it looks very good in the hot summer. And so I'm going to see how this Junior Walker variety does. I can see, it's blooming, but then there's also some blooms that I need to shear back. So when I bought this from the garden center from Wintour, she just told me, just shear it back once and it'll come and it'll all flush back and it'll be beautiful. So I'll probably in a couple weeks, I'll come out here and I'll shear it all off and see how it does. I have my peonies here that I planted. I planted 5 of them right here. 2 of them didn't even come up at all, so I gave up on those. They're struggling. They are not super happy, and I think it's because of the heat. So I'll just kind of keep limping them along and seeing how they do. But yeah, peonies are another one. They're a stretch for us. So of course the grass is always greener on the other side, and I want all the plants that do well in the lower zones, even though I should be happy with what plants do well in my high zone. But I'm just pushing it, and it's just a trial, and it's just to see how, what I can do, and can I grow peonies, and can I get them to bloom. And everything I've researched, you should be able to do it. You should be able to do it in these hot zones. You just have to kind of mess with it a little bit. So I will keep taking care of them, kind of babying them and letting them grow. I do have some hollyhocks back here that I was really worried about before because they didn't look good at all, but right now they're starting to look really, really good. So I will see if they start to send up bloom stalks. We'll see how it goes. And then over here, I'm going to stand in the shade because it's getting hot. This is our fairy garden. So I've showed this off a couple times to you guys. This is my girls' little fairy garden that they come and they decorate. And we do, winter fairy garden, spring fairy garden, summer fairy garden. This is our summer fairy garden, and it's looking really, really cute. And, this is a sunflower that is not happy. I have no idea. I thought that it was going to thrive right there, but it just was not happy in this spot. Let's see. We have some Calibrachoa right there. We have some dahlias back there. That's some dragon's tongue bush bean that we grew from seed from proven winners. And then this is portulaca that I think is really cute, and I think it's perfect for the summer. This was a good choice. There is a little fairy path right there that's completely covered over by it, so I'll have to come through and I'll have to trim it a little bit. But look at how cute. The kids in the neighborhood come and they play. Look at what they've done with the gnomes. It's just so sweet. I just absolutely love it. So I can't wait for like Halloween and Christmas, and I will come out here and I will add some stuff that I get from the dollar store. I'm really excited about it. I think it'll be really cute. All right, and we are on to my oak tree garden bed. I redid this garden bed this summer, and I am so happy with how it turned out. I think it is so beautiful. Everything is really, really happy here. I mean, there's a couple things that are kind of getting used to their new spots, but that's okay. That's totally normal. We call it our oak tree garden bed because there's this gorgeous oak tree. We think it's a valley oak, but we're not totally sure. It's this beautiful, beautiful oak tree that's here, and it's always been a really, really tough garden bed for me because what do you plant under an oak tree, right? Native California oak trees, they cannot handle a lot of water. You don't want to put anything right underneath it that's going to over irrigate the tree, because that will actually harm a California native oak tree. So this whole area I had to do pretty low water California native plants, everything that can handle being under an oak tree. So I found this fabulous resource that talked about what are good plants to plant under California native oak trees, and I picked all these plants from that resource. So they're all from there, and I'm really excited because it seems like everything's thriving and doing really well. I mean, you can see this Pugster Blue butterfly bush, really happy, starting its second bloom. Pincushion flower, happy as well. Liriope even starting to bloom. I didn't even plant these for its bloom, but look at how cute that is. Isn't that sweet? So the Liriope line the sidewalk every so often, and I do think I'm going to come in and I'm going to add more, so it's kind of more of a little border of the sidewalk. I think it'll be really pretty. I have some status or sea lavender that's gorgeous, and I think I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna start harvesting some for some dried flowers. It's always so hard because I don't want to take the flowers away, but I want some dried flowers, so I kind of have to see. I do see one over here that's not very happy. It's looking a little dry, so I'll have to see what's kind of going on with there. I do have to say, I remind my friends all the time when they put new landscaping in their yard, if you put 100 plants in, you have to kind of expect, I don't know, like 20 of them are going to suffer or even die. I mean, plants are living things, and you cannot expect all of them to absolutely thrive in their new area. So I think, as I'm looking around here and I'm looking at all the plants I planted, to have basically one plant, maybe two plants, another one over there that are not doing well out of all the plants that I planted, I feel like that is really, really good. And I'm really happy about that. And I think that this garden bed was a total success. So I do have these coral bells, heuchera, that's the word I'm looking for. These are the citronelle, the lime green ones. They are doing really well, except for in a couple places, like over here, you can see a couple of them are scorching. And I do think that it's mostly because they just got put in this spot and they're just getting used to this spot. I think as the root system kind of develops and spreads out, I think that they're going to be able to handle the sun a little bit better. But you can see this light in this garden bed is so varied. Like there's spots that get full sun, but in a week from now, as the tree grows and the limbs change and the sun position changes, that hot spot is going to, be over here, or it'll be over here, or it'll be over here. So these plants are going to have to be able to handle different lighting conditions pretty well. They're going to have to be able to handle it. And I'm putting them to the test, and I think that they're going to be fine. I really do. I'm pretty confident with this garden bed. I know I shouldn't be, because it's nature and you can never be confident with nature, but I think that everything I picked out is pretty good. It'll handle it. Over here, I have southern sword ferns. So those guys are gonna get really big, like right in front of my garage. They're gonna get really big. And then these are where I transplanted my plumbago from my cottage garden bed. I transplanted them over here, and then you can see I put some espaliered wire, and then I'm just gonna come through and kind of wrap them around the wire like this, knowing that plumbago's crazy, right? You guys saw the plumbago I put on my trellis, and I'm not gonna be able to espalier it perfectly. It's not gonna look like perfect diamonds, but it is going to be a little bit, you know, pushed up against the fence, and I will be able to control it a little bit. So this one, rest in peace. I think it finally succumbed. I thought that it would be okay. It was doing fine. It had some green on it. It was doing all right. And then just in the past week or two, it just died. It just is not happy. So I'll just go to the store. There's plumbago everywhere. So it's not gonna be hard to replace it. I'll just take it out and I'll replace that one. I had a really tough time transplanting these plumbago. I literally cut roots that were like that big, and I had to just chop them off because I could not get them out of their holes over in the cottage garden bed. So this one I did a lot of damage to, and I knew it, and I was really worried about it. But I'm really happy with how the other 4 handled the transplant. They did great. So again, like 20%, right? That's expected failure rate. Okay. Now, if anybody can help me identify this, these were here. I saw these last year. I don't think I have a picture of them. I thought I got all of the bulbs out, but I didn't. I think that they're like a little pink blossom, but they just look, they're kind of popping up. And I do see these kind of all around town in different places, and I am just not familiar with this plant. So I'm gonna let them bloom. I'm gonna see how they do. There's no irrigation to that. They're just coming. So we're gonna let them come, and I will show you guys a picture when they finally do bloom. Okay, over here I have a Belle Etoile mock orange that I got from Annie's Annuals, and when I planted it, what was that, like a month and a half ago, it was here, and it has doubled in size. So super excited. This one should get about 5 feet tall, so it should get pretty big pretty quickly. And obviously it's really happy in the spot, and I was so happy to see that it was on that list of plants that were okay to plant underneath an oak tree, because I think it's gonna be so beautiful right there. This is a Japanese painted fern that was here before. It didn't have any irrigation to it, and I just temporarily put some irrigation to it, and again, it is thriving. So I don't think that's the perfect spot for it. I will probably move it eventually, but right now it's super happy. I'll let it bulk up, and then I'll probably move it somewhere. Oh, and look, you can see my plumbago is already blooming even after the torture that I did to it. It's looking good. Okay, so this is my neighbor's side that I worked on over here. You can see it's kind of more the same. I chose all the same plants. He does have some daylilies back here that we're gonna take out and I'll replace with something. I just don't know what yet. I have to kind of think about it. But too much shade for daylilies, they're just not happy at all. So it's funny, too much shade for daylilies, but then right over here, he's got this lantana that's absolutely huge and beautiful. And remember I was saying, lantana likes sun for it to bloom. So this lighting area in these garden beds over here are so funny. They're just hard to get a read on of what it is. So this one doesn't look like it's blooming too much, but there are buds everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And he told me that he cut these, I think there's 3 plants, maybe 4 plants of lantana. This winter he cut them way back because they were getting too big. So absolutely beautiful. Again, I don't know, lantana in shade, it can obviously handle it and it can obviously thrive, but I think it does a little bit better in more sun. I don't know. It's just one of those things. You can't control Mother Nature. All right, everyone, we're almost done. I know this is a long garden tour. I have so much I can say about my garden. So here is a grass. This is another inspiration that I got from Laura from Garden Answer. This is a Miss Canthus Cabaret. I got it as little plugs from eBay because I could not find it anywhere. And I'm super happy with the growth right now. Obviously, this grass, it's not going to get as big as the Vertigo pennisetum, but it is going to get, I don't know, like 4 feet tall. So it does have some growing to do, but I'm really excited about it. And I think it's the perfect grass for right there. Right behind it, I do have this flowering maple. It's very pretty. This plant you need to prune and you need to kind of keep it under control. You can see, if you can see through this gate, it's starting to kind of take over on the grass right there. So I need to get in here and I need to prune it, and I need to kind of, you see that wire right there? I'm gonna kind of lash it to that wire and grow it up as like a little wall to make a wall right here. So I need to come and I need to work on that. It's intense. It is definitely an intense plant, but I think it's beautiful. It's not blooming much right now, but it will. Once it blooms, it has these gorgeous pink flowers that are everywhere, and the hummingbirds absolutely love it. So one issue I am having, I have a Limelight Prime right here, and then over here I have another Limelight Prime right there, and you can see they're kind of falling over. And I feel like it was my pruning job that I did on them. I'm not totally sure. It's almost like the heads are too heavy for it and it's causing it to flop over. So these are young plants. I planted them last year, so I'm not going to worry about it, because I think that the what am I trying to say? The branches will start to thicken up as the plant gets a little bit older, and it'll start to be able to handle the heaviness of the head a lot better. But right now I really want to make sure nothing breaks on them, because I don't know, I'm just kind of worried about them. So I don't know, maybe I'll come out here and I'll stake them up. But they're beautiful. Look at this one. It's already starting to get a little bit red. Absolutely gorgeous. Coming over this way, I call this my gated garden bed, because you can see I have my black gate all around here. I'm really excited to get going on this garden bed. I am going to take out all of this dianthus. I just have to get in here and do it. It's one of the projects I'm going to do next month. And I'm going to kind of revamp this garden bed. And by revamp, I mean simplify it. When I first planted this garden bed, I had the Mystic Spires Salvia all back here. I had the Helen von Stein, and then I had this white verbena, and that was about it. And it was gorgeous. It was so beautiful and so simple, and I just loved the look of it. I'll see if I can find a picture. It's been a while, I might not be able to, but it was really pretty. And then I just started adding color and adding color and adding color. So it's pretty, but you can see the dianthus is kind of out of bloom right now. So I am going to pull that out. I'll probably transplant that into the cottage garden, or I might just get annoyed and just throw it away. I almost came out here and just ripped it out and threw it all away. But I am just going to kind of simplify this whole area, and I think I'm going to do it next month. And it is not the ideal month for planting things, but I think I can handle it, because this garden bed does get protected from hot afternoon sun, so I think it will be able to handle it. Okay, and then over here is the heliotrope that I'm talking about. This plant, first of all, the smell is amazing. With our heat, it just releases its vanilla fragrance, and it's so amazing. Every time I walk by here, I am just so happy I planted this plant. The way that I found this plant, I wasn't aware of heliotrope. Now, I will say heliotrope is toxic to dogs, so if you have a dog that likes to chew on your plants, don't plant this in your backyard or wherever your pets are going to get to it. This is my front yard, and my dog really doesn't come out here unless he's on a leash, so I'm not worried about it. But the way that I found this plant, Jason and I were at a wedding in Carmel, and we were walking, all around Carmel by the sea, and I walked by this beautiful house, and I smelled something, and I stopped in my tracks and had to go smell every single flower until I could find what flower was that amazing smell, and it ended up being this. So I ended up using one of those plant identifier apps and found that it was heliotrope, and I absolutely love this plant. I'm so happy with it. I am going to plant more here, and I actually have more in some cans over there that I'm actually going to give to my mother, because I'm a good daughter. So when I redid her garden beds over at her house, we had some heliotrope. I ordered two kinds. I ordered one kind from online, and then we found another kind at the nursery that I always talk about up in Reading. And the kind that we found at the nursery did really well. The kind that we ordered online, it died. It just wasn't happy. And it was probably the shipping, or it just wasn't the right variety for that spot. So it's this variety. I think this is called the marine variety. But don't quote me on that, but that is the variety that does really, really well, and it's beautiful, and it has a gorgeous scent, and I love it. Right behind that, I have some Surefire Rose Begonia, and oh my goodness, it's so beautiful, but it's so amazing what a difference the sun makes to these plants. So you can see the color, it's like this corally rose, you know, this bright tropical color. But as soon as you can see, I have this Wichita Blue Juniper, and it's shading these, and you can see they're like this pale rose. So it's just amazing the difference in color with these plants. I think they're beautiful. They're beautiful either way, and I love them. And wouldn't it be pretty if I extended it out around here? So I do have to order some more of those. But it's just so interesting what a difference just the littlest difference in sun can make with the shade of these plants. So this is another one of my favorite vistas. I have my English ivy in the background, I have my Wichita Blue Juniper, and then I have my heliotrope and my hydrangeas right there. It's another one that I absolutely love. I do think I need some more height kind of right there. I don't know. I'll play around with it, but I do think it's gorgeous. All right, so coming over here, here is my mess. So this flower box, total fail. I mean, it is like basically dead. I had these Reiger begonias, and they are just not doing well. I think they're not dead. I could probably limp them along, but I just don't want to. So it was a total bummer. I'll show you guys a picture of what it looked like when I first planted it. And then I don't know if it's an irrigation issue in this flower box or if they just were not happy. I planted the Reiger begonias last year, and they were super happy in this spot. So I'm kind of confused as to why they're not doing well, but that is okay. So when I was at Wintour Gardens, I found this coleus that's absolutely gorgeous. I love it. What was the name? Main Street Sunset Boulevard. Absolutely beautiful. So I got a whole flat of those, and I was thinking about putting these in that flower box. However, in my backyard, my Caladium bulbs from Proven Winners are starting to go crazy. So I have both options. I have these, and then I have my Caladium bulbs. I'll show you a picture of those right here. But I don't know what to plant. So I'm going to plant something probably in the next week. I'm going to plant something in that flower box just to replace it and to make it work a little bit better. Here's some more heliotrope I found that I'm going to give to my mother to replace those plants that didn't do very well. Here is an amethyst butterfly bush. Here's a bloom that's going right here. I got this at the store, and I'm going to plant it in my back shade garden. So I finally have a good plan, a plan that I'm happy with this back shade garden. So what I'm doing is I have all these plants that I'm planning to put in there, and I'm just kind of storing them here for now, just because the lighting in this spot is perfect for kind of storing plants. So it doesn't look very good. It's right in front of my front door. I have to take care of it. Here is this one belongs in my room, but we are getting our master bathroom. Like I said, we're getting our master bathroom redone. So it was kind of getting in the way, and it was getting all dusty. So I brought it out here, and I rinsed it all off, and it looks beautiful right now. So yeah, so everything's kind of up in a mess. And this, you can really see, you know, what I'm dealing with here, but it's not too bad, and it's all plants, and it's all pretty. All right, everyone, I think that is it for my garden tour. If you guys have stuck around till now, thank you. Thank you so much for watching this. Jason always gives me a hard time because he says that I could talk about plants all day if I was given the opportunity, and this gives me the opportunity. So thank you all so much. So yeah, so you can see not everything is looking perfect, but most things are looking really gorgeous. I'm sure in just a month or two, we're gonna start seeing, or I'm gonna start seeing a lot of the heat suffering on a lot of these plants, and I'm ready for it. I know that that's what comes with our hot temperatures, and it's just part of the season. So that's okay. I'm going to enjoy the blooms while I have them. So I hope you all enjoyed this. Thank you again for watching to the end, and I hope you all have a chance to get into your garden today.